I will not belabor this too much here because I want to make sure that everybody at their own time looks at the vocabulary, the care of originals, and when we get to the part which we are going to jump right ahead to right now because we have such limited time and I want to cover so many things. Um, the third section right here called Scan It on your handout. These are the first four steps to doing the steps of working on your pictures. All right, and when you restore them, you have to scan them in with the least amount of problems as possible. So you've got to have a clean surface. All right, your scanner has got to be clean. And when you do scan, I always recommend that you turn off any filters in the scanner, anything such as sharpening or special effects, all that kind of stuff you want to do in your photo editing program. The only exception is if you are scanning a picture that was printed in a newspaper or a book or a magazine that has what's called that will give you what's called a moire pattern. That would be for another workshop as far as those specifics about scanning. But keep that in mind. Scan big. All right, so that means when you scan in your original, you want it at 300 pixels per inch at the minimum, at 100% the size. So if it's a 5 by 7 print that you're scanning, you definitely make sure that you're scanning it at 100% size, 100% scaling, 100% magnification, or you can increase that. But the pixels per inch, the amount of pixels that will be in there, or as the misnomer is dots per inch, but it's still the same meaning, must be 300 or less. Any less than that, you will lose detail. You will be compromising detail, especially when the pictures are smaller. The fourth part of scanning is to save it as a TIFF. All right, and I also give you the choice of a native format. And a native format is not JPEG or PDF as we might think. Those are good for sharing pictures and documents, but it should be TIFF or the native format. If it's Photoshop, it should be the Photoshop format. If it's the GIMP format, it should be GIMP, Paint Shop Pro, etc. I will jump really quick, and I've got a neat little screen sharing thing here on my other computer. I found out that my main computer is not compatible with GoToMeeting, so I'm working on a laptop and I've connected to that computer. But I wanted to show you the this is an Epson scanner that you're looking at, a Epson scanner driver. And and if you have one of these, I highly recommend. I mean, Epson is the absolute best, in my opinion, scanner that you can use for your photos and documents. There's really nothing out there for flatbeds that have the ability to control what the thing is doing like Epson. Uh, so when you go to that Epson scanner, you want to make sure that when you open the driver for that thing, that you put it in professional mode, because after tonight, you're going to be a professional, just like me. All right? So I want you to make sure, again, these settings right here, all right, 300, and they say DPI, but we know it's PPI, and scaling over here, 100%, okay? At least 100%. In this picture, I kind of put it upside down there, but it is it is an 8 by 10. Obviously, the target size stays here and here. Now, when we do a scanning workshop someday, if you like this workshop, you make sure you tell Wisconsin State Genealogical Society, hey, bring that guy back, have him do a scanning workshop. We'll get into all the details of this stuff. But if you go back with these magic numbers, 300 pixels per inch, and at least 300 pixels per inch, at least 100% scaling, and saving as a TIFF, you'll be okay. And I'll just show you in the Epson scan, when you do that, you hit the scan button and it gives you a window here, and it says image format. And look at all those wonderful choices. JPEG, garbage, multi-TIFF, I don't know what that is, PDF, no, picked, garbage, print, garbage, TIFF. That's it. That's your archival format. Okay, your options, don't spook yourself out about it. This compression, don't mess with it. Macintosh or Windows is fine. And nowadays, Windows can open Mac TIFFs, and Mac TIFFs can open Windows, and whatever. You'll be fine with these settings here, okay? All right. Let's jump back to our wonderful handout. And I'm sharing all kinds of screens here. Now, I want to look at the survey in a moment, but I want to go over, push that up there. There we go. It's a big, heavy piece of paper here. The restoring part. Just briefly, I'm going to go over how we're going to do this. We're going to duplicate our background layer. We're going to save a copy. Do not work on the original scan. So we're ultimately going to end up with two different files. Slightly different named files, but of the same picture. We're going to clean it up, and then we're going to repair any missing parts, fix any major color flaws, and then we're going to do an overall color correction. And essentially, we'll be done. So let me jump to the next page. There we go. All right. So you look at the next page, and we'll look at the one in front of you. Hopefully you printed it out, because the one on my screen doesn't show right now. Print it, all right? And you follow those steps for printing, and you'll be set. But for now, let's focus on the photo restoration aspect. And I will quit that thing there. Now let's look at our little chat box and see what all you wonderful students are using.
Okay, Eric, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, we have Photoshop Elements. Some are using 12, some are using 13. Some are using Photoshop Lightroom, Photoshop CC, PaintShop Pro, Picasa, Adobe, Paint.net, JASC ProShop Software, Cyberlink Photo Director 6, and Corel PaintShop. That's what I've gotten so far.
Oh, well, that's great. That's a very broad collection. Very. We got all kinds of skill levels out there. Could you tell me? Because I'm not seeing this. Oh wait, to organize or only organize and panelists maybe. No, I'm not seeing it. Can you tell me, Vicky, the majority program being used?
I would say probably some combination of Photoshop Elements, some of those. That's pretty much mostly what came through. You know, one or two on each of the other ones, but the Photoshop Elements was probably the main one that was coming through.
Great. All right. Well, I'm going to work with Photoshop Elements. And now, all you PaintShop Pro, JASC, and other users, pretty much everything we do here, you're going to be able to do. No problem. It'll be fully compatible. A lot of the functions are the same for what we're doing. So I'm going to work. I work in a nice legacy version here of Elements. This will be version 9 that I'm using, and I don't know. Vicky, do they see my control panel? My webinar, my web GoToWebinar control panel.
I don't believe so. No.
Okay, good. All right. So I'm just gonna kind of move that there.
No, all they see is just your screen.
Okay.
If you click on that little orange button, the arrow up on the top of your panel,
yeah,
it will just disappear for you.
Oh, look at that. Great. Great. Wonderful. All right. So we started. I have a collection, a small collection of images from one of the great volunteers there at Wisconsin State, and we're gonna just open up these pictures, and I want to work on them as much as I can. I want to do as many as I can in a limited amount of time. I may not be able to work on everything in each one of these, but here is the part when I'm working. I definitely want to interact with you. So if there's things you have specific questions, oh wait, what was that you clicked on, or etc. etc. That's what we want to do. So before I start this, now I would like to deal with any questions before I start.
Well, let's see. Somebody asked if there was a certain program that you would recommend for beginners.
Yes, that's a great, and that's this one here, Adobe Photoshop Elements. Yeah, that's it. Paint, yeah, definitely.
Okay. Let me see if we have anything else. Do you have a recommendation if they're using a Mac, especially for a beginner? Same thing?
Yeah, definitely. Adobe Photoshop Elements.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a real believer in them. I'm not a believer in the Creative Cloud and Photoshop, Adobe, what they're doing now, renting their software. It stinks. I don't like it. But Adobe Photoshop Elements, you can buy the license to use. You don't have to rent it. All right. I'm going to get started, but go ahead and ask your questions as I work. Step number one that we're going to do here is we are going to duplicate our background layer. So what that means is every picture that you open up automatically has its own layer. It's called background. Without a layer, you have nothing. But you can't turn this layer off because the picture's there. That's it. So how do we duplicate that? Very simple. We go up here to the menu. There's many ways to do it actually, but here's a real easy way to remember. Layer, duplicate layer. And go ahead and go with the default name right there. You don't have to change it. Just another thing to remember in the many things that you might have to do. All right, and there you go. You look over here, boom, background copy. Now we're going to work on that. I want to jump ahead a little bit. I'm going to kind of jump ahead into step, as you'll see, I'm jumping back a little bit into the first section where we have scan it on your handout, and we're going to talk about saving as a native format. So with layers, when you have something layers, you can't always save it in the native format, depending on the version of Photoshop you have. All right. So I'm sorry, you can't always save it in TIFF. You can't always save it in TIFF according to the version. So this is where you would save the native format is. So we see it's 50th anniversary.tiff. That's the name of the original. So we want to leave that original alone now. So we're going to go File, Save As. And I generally do this in the same folder. I just add a little dash R1, or you can do 01, or if you think you're going to do 999 revisions, you can do 001. But it's definitely not necessary. So let's just, for safety purposes here, so that everybody's on the same page, we save into the native file format, all right?
Eric, Nancy has a question. She wants to know, how do you move a picture from your Word document to PSC and then back after fixing it?
Woo, man. Yeah, so that, wow. So if you have a picture embedded in Microsoft Word, all right, so what you're going to have to do, and I've had, maybe there's someone in the chat that has more experience than me in this, and they'll chime in, but it's very much in the Word document. You can select that picture, copy it, then you have to go to File, New in Photoshop Elements, and make a new blank file, and then you paste it in. Edit, paste. If someone else has a better way or a more correct way, please, post that and share it with us, okay? But yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, when people embed pictures in Microsoft Word, that's tough.
And what I would do at this point is, if you have good suggestions for that, type your comments into the question box, and I'm going to suggest that everybody saves that question dialogue onto your computer before you log off tonight, and then that way you can go back and view all the questions, the comments, and then the answers to some of those questions that have been given. But that's one way to deal with it. So just go back and make sure that you save that question dialogue before you sign off tonight.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So now we've saved this as our working copy. As you see up here, it's got a different name. And now we begin cleaning up. And we want to look for minor scratches. And in this case, in my opinion, this has a lot of minor scratches. I've seen a lot worse. All right. We can also start cleaning it up by doing a simple, excuse me, wrong key here, by doing a simple crop. As you see, we have areas that were scanned, and this is actually the scanner bed here. Sometimes we like to keep a border, but for tonight we won't. So let's go in to the crop tool over here. Click that. Looks like two L's together. Very old reference there to graphic arts. And make sure that after you choose the crop tool that nothing is entered into these boxes. These boxes should be completely empty. This should be no restriction. That'll trip you up all the time. I guarantee you that. Why can't I crop correctly? Check your settings up here. Alright, so we click and drag with the mouse. Alright, we're going to go here. Now, what if there's something I wanted to keep in there? Well, that's why we keep the original, right? That's why you want to keep the original untouched. And that's why we are working on a working copy. Then down here, nice little green check means I like it. Execute the crop, please. There we go. And we'll begin cleaning up. Now, one thing I want to show you is that a good scan makes a big difference. And sometimes if your scan is lousy, there'll be defects that are in the file and not in the picture. So we really got to make sure our scans are really good in the beginning. If they're not good in the beginning, maybe we can go back and rescan them. If you can't rescan them, well, you got to work with whatever you have. So some of the basic tools to clean up spots, some big spots like this, I like to go send people to the clone stamp tool. Clone stamp tool is a two-step function. And you have to first set it up. And you want your brush size to be slightly bigger than the area that you're cleaning up. So you see, this is too big. If we end up doing this, we're going to end up making a mess. So let's make it smaller. We can go using the slider to make the brush smaller over here. Or I like to do it because I like to do it visually. I'm going to hit the bracket key on my keyboard. And you see, same function. So I could do this and that and that. It's about the same, slightly larger. That's all I ask, slightly larger. And we click on our keyboard, holding down the Alt or Option key, depending if you Mac or PC, and click in an area that is nice, that is clean, but similar to the area you want to cover. And you'll notice your cursor changes into look like a target or a dartboard. And so you want to target that area by a click and let go of your Alt Option key and just Brush away. I could hear some of you say, wow. Yeah, that's what it is. Wow. It is really cool.
Awesome, Eric.
See? See? Now you got to be careful though, because let's just say we're going to go over here and we say, oh, look at the spot on the dust spot on his brow. That has got to go. All right, so let's make it kind of small, and here we go. I will target this area here and paste it. Uh-oh. He's got 3 eyes. So you see, the clone stamp tool can work against you. So you want to be real careful. You want to choose an area that's similar to the area you want to cover. And where his eyebrow and eyebrow, you definitely don't want to do the nose either. None of that stuff. You really got to be careful. In a case like this, where it's kind of dark up here, it's real dark here, and it's kind of light here, where can I copy? Because every time I copy it, doesn't necessarily look natural. You know, it's still dark and blotted. Go over here. This is the healing brush. All right, and this is like the clone stamp tool, but it's real sensitive to the tone of the area. So you could source or target a dark area, but if you think that dark area matches the smoothness of the area you're covering up, it will actually match the lightness there. So I want to source this part of his head. It looks like it's got very little spots, dust spots, and I just want to wipe here. All right, and then it does a little computer algorithm, and it went and blended it in very nicely, in my opinion. All right, we'll do the same across these lines here. And sometimes, I use the healing brush for a lot of stuff. Healing brush may not work so well on the edge of his face, however. It also may not work well with patterns like this. All right, we have up here patterns in her dress. It might work here. Let's see what will happen here by his ear. So I'm going to click. Let me slow down here. Slow down, Eric. So I have my Alt Option key down. Still using the healing brush, people. And we source this area right here. Let go and paint. And sometimes it works. Let's see what happens. Let go. And see, it kind of made a little smudging in here by the edges. See, that's the problem with the healing brush. It's trying to average things out. So in this case, I would use the clone stamp tool. So I'm going to switch back to that. Option, click, option, click, option, click. All right, look, it's a little better. I like that. It gives me a little more control.
Eric, have you done anything with scanning from a flip pal?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, go on my blog, go to my website, and let's see. I should. Seems like I messed something up here. Here we go. And I want you to go to my website, click on this button right here that says the blog, and then when that blog loads, let's close this window here. I want you to search in the search window for my blog. Okay, let's try that again. And search in the search window right up here in this corner. Flip. Try to just do flip. Just do flip, and you'll read my review. We don't have time today to get into it, but and Adobe wants to update my Flash player. No, thank you, not now. All right, so anyways, read that at your convenience. I have a couple articles about it. It's a very valuable tool, but you need to know what you're getting into. You need to know that it has some issues that are concerned to me, but it is not a major issue. So I definitely recommend people that the flip pal is an excellent tool in your arsenal, in addition to, you know, a regular full-size scanner.
Okay, well, Susan was wondering if how do you find the quality of your scanning if you're using a flip pal?
Well,
You know,
you have to compare it to, if I hope I'm answering the question properly here. I'm not trying to be a smart aleck at all. You have to scan. You have to take the same image. Excuse me. Scan it with your flip pal, and then scan it with your, for example, your Epson printer scanner. I hope that helps.
okay.
That's the best way, in my opinion, because then you get to see it. I show it in my blog, so if you look at the article, you'll see it. I actually show you what I did with an Epson and what I did with a flip pal.
What makes a good scan?
What is a selection?
What are layers?
What is resolution?
What is a JPEG?
What is TIFF?
What is RGB?
How do I crop a picture?
What is a zoom tool?
What is a clone stamp?
What are levels?
My name is Eric Basir, and I have produced this unique photo restoration and retouching foundations video course to answer all these questions and more. In my classes and workshops, I have taught hundreds how to preserve and restore their personal photographic collections with Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Photoshop Elements. Now you can have me as your personal instructor in this 10-lesson course. After studying the videos and easy-to-read workbook, you'll finish with a firm foundation of how to use Adobe Photoshop or any other photo editing program confidently and correctly. So, healing brush work here, healing brush work here. And remember, healing brush and clone stamp are 2 steps, so you actually have to set the target and click. All right. So let me work a little bit on this. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but and go ahead and ask me some more questions if you'd like.
Okay. Janet wants to know what did you click on to get the background when you started?
Okay, the background layer probably.
Yes.
Great. So the background layer, you don't have to click on anything. It's part of every time you open a picture, you get the background. But if you're asking how do you get a background copy, all right, you simply go to layer and duplicate layer. Or if you don't see that, if you're using a different program, you might want to look in the layer palette, which is this thing here, and look at some kind of triangle or some kind of button or some kind of option section, and you should be able to see duplicate layer in there as well. I hope that helps.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, so I'm just going to do a little more cleanup here. And I want to show you what's pretty cool when you turn off the background layer. So right here, I'll show you. There's an eyeball. There's an eyeball. So the background copy is highlighted. That means that's the layer you're working on. Sometimes if you got this one chosen and you're trying to make changes, you'll see, nothing's happening here. Well, that's because you need to have the top layer, the background copy layer, highlighted. And when you turn it off by clicking this eyeball, you can see the layer underneath it. And you can see what it used to look like. All right? So I think he's looking much better. I think he's looking much better. So let's get rid of this line here. I want to get rid of some of the big stuff. And looks like a nice little party. Now, healing brush is perfect for this area. Sometimes it can be a perfect mess too. So you have to, sometimes if it doesn't work one time, try it again. Undo it and try it again. So option click. Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty good. Option click. Rub in there. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, like that. Alright, so there's a lot more that needs to be fixed in this picture, but I want to move on to the next step. So let's presume we got We took care of most of the minor stuff. Now there's some major flaws here, and one of it is in the chemistry. Uh, this was probably in the original. I'm almost certain of it. This is. Let me try to get a pen. I'm gonna get a pencil and see if I can write. Yeah, good. So let me make a new layer. This will be my scribble layer. So I'll go to Layer, New, Layer, and this is going to be my notes layer. And if you see some modeling going on in here. And I don't mean modeling like showing off clothes. I mean these weird spots. And sometimes what would happen is the print would be made so fast in the darkroom it didn't get enough time to develop, or the chemistry in the tray was really old and it just didn't start to process evenly, and it just yanked it out, put it in the fixer, and then rinsed it, and boom, hang it, dry it, sell it, give it away, whatever. All right, so that type of thing can be what I consider very difficult to correct, and in some cases, like I said, I believe this is in the original. You leave it, especially if this is history we're dealing with. However, you can make some adjustments or correct all of it. It's up to you. Let's do part of it. So because we see a defect, let's focus on the defect in this section, right? The modeling in this section. Let us select that portion. We want to separate this portion and only work on this portion. So we go over to the lasso tool right here, and we do a kind of a rough outline here. Normally I work in a different mode in Photoshop, but for people using Elements, I'd rather show it this way first, and especially when we have so many beginners. What we have to do is start to correct it. Now watch what happens when I correct. I'm going to show you. Some of you are going to know what's going to happen. Let's duplicate our background layer again. This will be our color correction layer here. So now you look in here. Now we got another layer. Right? Let's go to Enhance, Adjust Lighting, Levels, and we have 3 sliders here that you need to only be concerned about these top 3 sliders. The white slider is called for highlights or bright areas. The gray or middle slider is for the gray or the middle tone areas. And the black is for shadow or dark areas. Well, this area is gray. This is a midtone. So we need to, let me move this here. We need to, what? We need to darken it to match this area. So let me move this slider and then it should work. Well, it's getting light. Let me go the other way. Great. Looks a little better. It looks a little like it's matching. But, let me hit OK. But there's a problem. Once I get rid of this selection, select, deselect, I have this awful edge here. All right, that is not now. It looks like, man, now it looks worse. You don't want to make your pictures look worse. Please, you want to make them look better. So let's undo, edit, undo, deselect, and we're going to undo the levels. And if you don't want to go through the menu, you got this neat little thing called Undo History window right here, and here's all my history. So we duplicated, we got that. So now we have to soften the edge, because you know that edge was so harsh. There's just no way we could work with it. So the edge of our selection must be softened. How do we do that? Well, it's selection. It's a selection tool, right? Lasso is a selection tool. So go to the menu. the select menu. And we do a little something in the darkroom days called feathering. This comes from darkroom days. And we want to soften the edge of this selection and feather it as if you were putting your hand in front of it in the darkroom. I'm putting my hand in front of my screen like you can see it. But I'll use the mouse pointer here, and we're kind of enhancing light, making more light expose on this part of the photo paper. That's where that comes from. So let's soften it. Let's try 10 pixels. And it should make it nice and soft right there. And next we will go to Enhance, Adjust Lighting, Levels. And let's zoom out because it's good to look at the whole thing. And if the marching ants here are bothering you, which frankly they do kind of bother me from time to time, we can hide this these marching ants by going to View and uncheck Selection, and it hides it. It's still there, but it's just hiding it. So just keep that in mind that you just hit it. All right, so let's move the middle slider over. Come on, move. There we go. All right. So very subtle, very subtle. You know, do not be extreme here, okay? Very subtle. And that can help. But again, this is an uneven exposure. It's not going to be perfect. Click the preview button to show the before and after. You can even use the arrow keys on your keyboard to go in fine increments. See, I'm going like 8.4, 8.6, 8.8. I'm doing that with my arrow key on my keyboard. So the lower I go, the darker it gets. It looks like a nice compromise would be 0.87. All right. Now, down here in the layer palette, I'm going to click that eyeball. Before, that's the layer under, and that's the layer above. We could do the same type of thing down here. We could select this area, darken that as well. So there's some tips for you. Any questions about what I'm doing right here? Excuse me for slurping. All right. Am I still on? Oh.
The only question that came in, Eric, was if you had a way to make the picture look sharper, because it looks a little on the foggy side.
Oh, okay. So, sharpening. Sharpen. Well, let me tell you, boys and girls, sharpening is like bleach, okay? You can use it to disinfect. You can use it, it's a very useful chemical in your household. But you must be careful with it. And if you sharpen, you should only sharpen, make a sharpening layer. All right? And that way, and it must be at the last step. You do it before printing or before sharing it. Okay? And that is really important. Do not sharpen it and then start working on it. Because once you sharpen it, you can't go back. And I guarantee you, if you sharpen and there's defects, the defects will be sharpened. So, how do you sharpen, Eric? Now that you finished lecturing me about what I shouldn't and shouldn't do. I'm a grown man, I'm a grown woman. Of course you are, and I respect that. That's why I'm going to show you how easy it is to sharpen. And if you don't like the sharpening later, you can throw it out. So let's say we're all done color correcting. We're ready to print. And if you look on your handout in the last page, on the second page for printed, you'll see I'd say sharpen slightly if needed, but be careful. All right, so I'm going to duplicate another layer. I'm going to make another layer here. And, at this point, maybe it's a good idea to start naming your layers. So duplicate layer, we'll call this sharpen. And hit OK. Now this is going to be our sharpen layer. And we go to filter. Oh my goodness, I always get lost here because I don't use elements. It's enhance, I think. Yeah, it's not under filter. In elements, I believe 9 and up, it's enhance. If you don't see it in enhance, it's probably in filter. So go to Enhance, Unsharp Mask, not Adjust Sharpness. Yeah, don't mess with that. It's too confusing. Too many options right there. That's a car accident waiting to happen, like as soon as you pull out of the driveway. Um, Enhance, Unsharp Mask. Real simple. Real simple. All right. This, let's see what it's, oh, you know what? I think I still have my selection going. Right? What I said about selections. Yep, see, I got my selection going. So it was actually sharpening just that area. Be careful hiding that thing. All right, select, deselect. Okay, now we'll sharpen. All right, so let's go to Enhance, Unsharp Mask. All right, so what this has done, here's the preview. All this does is build up contrast between light and dark pixels, giving us the illusion of sharpening. And look at it though, you can see a lot more detail. All right, what are the magic numbers? All right, you're gonna have to write this down because this is not on the handout. I'll give you a simple magic number. If you don't get it tonight, just look at the notes and follow it. Real simple. Look at your resolution. Image, resize, image size. This is your image size. Ooh, this resolution actually, this was given to me, and this was not scanned correctly. But let's follow the rule anyways. It should have been at 300, right? But that's okay. That's okay. So the radius will be based on, the radius and the sharpening will be based on your resolution. So let's just look at it this way. If we're at 100 pixels per inch, go to Enhance, Unsharp Mask. You have to set the radius first because the radius is telling us how many pixels across do we want to be blown up in enhanced from light to dark pixels. So radius has to be half of your resolution. So take your resolution, divide it by 2. So if it's 100 pixels per inch, divide it by 2, and you got 50. Well, it couldn't be 50 pixels. Ah, look at that. You might say, oh, maybe that looks good. No, trust me, that doesn't look good. It's actually 0.5. Now, if it was 300 pixels per inch, like I told you it should be, it would then be, you would divide 300 by 2 is 150. It would be 1.5. Just move your decimal over. But for this is 100, so we got to go 0.5. That's how you start. Then you move this thing called a mount. Threshold, don't worry about it. When you become advanced, then you worry about that. But for now, I just want you to focus. These are most important. Set your radius first, then set your amount. I will tell you, what I'm showing you is an advanced technique. So you beginners, don't worry about it. If you're a beginner, don't worry about it right now. Don't sharpen your pictures. Uh-oh, something's bouncing. Hope I'm still, am I still on? Uh-oh. Am I still on there?
You are.
Oh, okay, okay, phew. All right, so let's move this slider here till we get the results that we want. And what we're doing is we're looking at look at faces when you're sharpening, all right? Don't worry about cakes or any, if you got human beings in there that are the subject, that are the main part of the, look at their faces. Before, after. I think that's sharpened enough. I wouldn't go higher than 200 for this. All right, now I hit OK and I go to my layer palette and I turn off the sharpen layer. Before, after. Much better. It looks better. But remember, we have exaggerated the defects. So it looks like there's more spots and more problems. That's why I say keep it in layers. Let's save it. Any other questions? All right. So let us close this window.
Eric, we've got one question that just came in. What tools would you use to correct or enhance a photo from a newspaper?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. All right. Well, I'd have to ask the questioner. Maybe they can respond. Uh, have you scanned? Is that a newspaper that you're scanning or that someone else scanned? That I'd like to know.
I'm assuming it's probably something that they have scanned, but
All right.
okay, personally scanned at 300 dpi.
All right. Good. Let's do this. Let me go to my Epson scanner, and I want you to do. This is critical when you scan. All right. We're gonna assume this picture here is a newspaper. I don't have that sample for me. That's actually another workshop, but I want to just answer it quickly and briefly because I think it's very simple, especially since you have the original, and you have the scanner. Assuming you have an Epson scanner or a scanner that allows you to use what's called descreening filter. That's the only filter I'd ever use in a scanner. Descreening. And you check that, and if it's got settings you want to choose. If it's newspaper, they'll tell you. They'll tell you newspaper, magazine, fine print. So in this case, it's 85 lines per inch. That's what newsprint is. You do that. Excuse me. That'll get rid of the moire. Excuse me. That'll get rid of the moire. The squiggly lines and weird patterns that you get. Now, that's about it. Other than that, it's a photo. It's just like a photo, and you treat it just like a photo, just like I give you here and the handout. All right. However, if for some reason you this is not a newspaper picture, but let's just say it is, and there's all kinds of weird moire patterns, duplicate your background layer, and might as well do that now. And go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and work with this slider here. And you're gonna blur away the moire. That's what you're gonna end up doing. Again, this is not a newsprint picture, but this is it. And you just move to the set. There's no magic number I have for you like for sharpening. Okay, you're gonna have to eyeball it, as they say. All right. So let's do a neat little color correction that I would like to share with you. We got 10 minutes left. So this is obviously it's the color is faded. If you can see on your screen what I see, it looked a lot better when it was first shot. So we duplicated the background layer. Let's go to Enhance. In fact, while we're here, let's double click that word background copy in there and just type in color correct, just so we know what layer it is. It's fun.
Eric, a couple
Sure.
people are asking about your Epson scanner that you're using.
Sure.
They want to know what you're using or what the model number is.
Yes. All right. So I'm using, and it's actually obsolete now, but I'm using Epson V500, and when you go to Epson, it looks like they're kind of trying to get everyone into all-in-ones, which is okay, I suppose. Let's see. And if you click on the site, I found it online, so it looks like, yeah, discontinued product. Oh, phooey. So the replacement product is the V5500. I'm clicking that link. So there you go. I recommend this one. Epson V550. These scanners are just fantastic. I just can't. I mean, look at you can do 35mm negatives and slides. Yeah, it's everything you need. But have me back for a scanning workshop. We'll get into all the details about that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Enhance, adjust lighting, levels. All right, now I teach this formula all the time, and it really works. Um, color photos, are comprised of three colors: red, green, and blue. So if you want to color correct, you can't color correct and do them all at the same time. Each color needs to be corrected individually. So you go to red, and it's just a drop down menu right here, red. By default, it's going to be RGB. I don't want you to do that. I want you to go to red. And you take the black slider, move it to the edge of the mountain. Not that line there. That line is just the border of the print it's reading. Move this one to the edge. You go to the green channel. Move that one over. Move the white. Don't mess with the middle, the gray slider right now. Oh, that looks wonderful, doesn't it? Now, I know it doesn't. We're almost done. Blue. All right. Hit OK. Now. Didn't mean to do that. Okay, hit the eyeball. See? Look how much better that is. And here's one more step you can do. Again, we've fixed the contrast. I think everyone looks so much better now. All right. We still have some weird color casts going on, especially in the front. They're really kind of still pale looking. Looks kind of blue, in fact. So let's get our levels back up. You know, I'm using keyboard shortcuts. Shame on me. Enhance, adjust lighting, levels, and let's go to that red channel, and we'll go to the middle slider, because that's where skin tones reside. That's where color in the middle range resides. And we go to the left, and it gets a little more red. We help that out a little bit. Let's zoom in here. So before, I'm hitting the preview box in the levels dialog box. Before, after. Look how much healthier they look. All right. Now, another neat thing, we'll go to the next step. All right. Enhance, adjust, color. And we'll go to hue and saturation. And then we take what's called the saturation slider, and we want to saturate what? Color. So we move it to the right. And sometimes it helps. But the problem with it looks better in the middle a little bit, but then we've exaggerated all this yuck stuff in here. We don't want that. So in that case, you go back to 0 and choose what you want. So let's say I think the blues could look, you know, better. It might be cyan actually that we're looking at. So let's go to cyan and move that to the right. Maybe. Let's try blue. A little bit. So preview. Before, after. Yeah. You can't win them all. There's lots of ways to go about doing this, but that's one way. So we got a couple more minutes. Any more questions? So you look at the 4 steps. Missing parts. I didn't have anything with missing parts, but it would be similar, and you would use the clone stamp. Let's you know, let's just say you know, there's a chunk of wedding dress torn out here, like so, and I'm just gonna sabotage it right now, and fill it with white. All right, and get my clone stamp and try to be sensitive to the patterns and the tones, and try not to make it look clone stamped. And then take the healing brush and try to get rid of some of the footprinting in here, like so. There you go. It's like a missing part. And you can do that. You can even do that after you color correct, but I definitely recommend color correcting at the end of the 4-step process. So there you go. It's 4 steps. Real basic. Duplicate your background. Make a working copy. Clean up those scratches, and get that spotting. Take care of the major mess. you know, where we saw that modeling going on with the black and white picture, and then do your overall color and use levels. And I use something called curves, but levels is a great beginner tool. Function for color correcting.
Eric Bernard has a question about old photos that have a reddish tint to them. How would you fix those, especially if you're just using an RGB level?
Well, it's the
Like
same.
red.
Yeah, it's the same principle. You know, you go into each channel and you move those sliders to have them come to the edge of the mountain or the histogram. You'll see a big change. You'll see a big change. You might need to desaturate it and put in your own color, which is another workshop. Colorizing photos. Yeah. Yeah, but it can be done for sure. Any other questions? Please ask. If I guess you can always email me if you don't.
Rosalind has a question about how do you replace eyes when scratched out of an old picture?
All right. So eyes, if they're replaced, eyes. Let me see if I got. Okay. So let's say you got to find a similar source. All right. So let's say his eye. I'm gonna sabotage this picture, I know, but let's say his eye. Don't worry about what I'm doing here. This step is scratched out. All right. And let's say that we know he's his brother or he's related. All right. We can do a clone stamp of that eye and put it in. All right. And then what we can do, we do that on a layer, make a new blank layer, and that way we can darken it to match the tone. Or in some cases, it doesn't always work. Let's say let's do it with him. He would be a better example. His eye was scratched out. We could take this eye and put it in. It's really important though. Let me make a new blank layer. I'm moving too fast for you guys. Layer, new, layer. This will be blank. We'll call this eye. All right. It's really important after you copy that eye over there. All right. It's kind of like a black eye now. But for speed, I got to get through this. You got to flip it. So you'll go to edit and, you know what? Yeah. Image. Transform. And free transform. No, rotate. Sorry. Image rotate. Flip. Horizontal. No, it didn't do that. I'm doing the whole image. I'm sorry. You know, I'm thinking of the Photoshop I use. So let's do on elements. After you do that, after you copy that, that with your clone stamp, you have to do Control or Command T. All right. Then go to rotate and flip layer horizontal, I believe. And it will flip it. And then you have to, now his eye might be looking crossed. So you're going to have to work with it and start to erase areas using the eraser tool to get that back. It takes some work, but it can be done. But it's 8:01. I feel like
That's okay, Eric. That's okay.
So can I keep going?
Well, for a couple more minutes.
All right. So oh boy, this is such low resolution. Let me just go through here real quick. Need a closer up.
While you're looking for that, Eric, possibly you could explain, somebody had a question about red eye. Do you basically use the same type of thing to get rid of the red eye, or do you do something else?
There's a lot of ways to do it. So a simple way if I were you. I think they've got red eye, but this is low resolution. It's hard to tell, but I think this one has red eye. So what I would do is um, I would select the pupil, and it's just so low resolution. I'm not really doing well at getting this, but I use my lasso tool and I select. All right, and then I have to go to, if I have multiple layers going on, like I do here, I have to do what's called edit copy merged. But if I don't, if I'm working right on the same layer, the same duplicate layer, I can just do edit copy. Edit copy merged, all right? Then I do edit paste. And I want to do paste into selection. So then the pasted eye, you know what, let me delete this. Let's make this, we got our selection going. Let's make a new blank layer. We copy, edit copy. No, I just did cut. Edit copy merged. Edit paste into selection. All right, down here in this layer now, this is our new, it just pasted that eye into there. And then that's when I go to enhance, adjust lighting, adjust color, and adjust hue and saturation. And you can pull that color out, bring the lightness down a little bit. And I deselected it. So you can guys see he's got red eye here and he doesn't have red eye here. That's one suggestion. There's many ways to do it. Go ahead, I'll work on this eye here until you say stop. So he got ripped. The eye was ripped over there. So we will make our duplicate layer. I will make a new blank layer. Get my clone stamp tool. Ah, look at it, remembers the eye from the other picture. That I in the RAM, it memorized it, so I have to do Alt Option click here. All right, and here. Let go. All right. It's not bad of a match, actually. It's not bad. It's rough, but it's not bad. And let's give it some more of the face, so I have more to work with.
While you're working on that, Eric,
Sure.
Lisa just made a comment that she said Photoshop Elements has a red eye tool. It's the 7th tool down on the left-hand side.
Yeah, right here. You know, it's been it's kind of unpredictable for me, and I don't use it, frankly, and so enough. So, but I'd say try it all. Like I said, there's a million ways to do it. Try the red eye selector tool, definitely. Right over here. Good suggestion. I kind of like the old-fashioned way because I have more control over it, you know. So I went over here to the eraser tool and made a brush, kind of big, and it's a soft edge brush. And I click up here in this triangle, and it tells me all the choices that I have. It's 300, too big. 65, too big. 27, that's good. And I'm going to erase a little bit here. Yeah. So maybe leave it like that. Now what we got to do is go under the eye layer. I'm going to type in eye here. And we'll make a new blank layer. And we'll call it under eye. And then we'll get the clone stamp tool over here. And Alt Option click. Do a little wipe from here. Alt Option click from here. From here. From here. He's looking kind of smashed in there. And we'll darken that area a little bit. Enhance. adjust lighting levels. And we're just working on that eye, under eye area. And you'll see when I move the slider how it affects. You don't want it too dark. And I like the corner of his eye here. I want to keep that. So I'll select that. And let's make a bigger selection of that. Because like I said, the resolution is very low on these. If it was 300, we'd have a lot more detail. And I want to feather that selection. 1 pixel. Then I want to edit, copy, merged. I'm moving fast, people. I'm sorry. And I want to do edit, paste. And what that did down here, it pasted it into its own new layer. I'm going to call this new socket. And that, whoops, grab my move tool over here in my toolbox. I want to move. All right, I moved the wrong layer. I have it auto selected. Turn that ghastly thing off. Okay, now I have it. All right, and we have to transform this one. I said edit, Control T. All right, Control T, and we want to. It's already selected as a layer here. It's already its own layer, and we want to transform this one. So I think I got to do Control T. Enhance. Transform. And I want to flip it. Flip layer horizontal. I'm going to turn it a little bit. Hit OK. Hit the check box. So there, I have his socket. Let me turn off this distracting box that's showing up. And then I can erase this little extra part. It's actually his hair showing up. And there we go. Very rough and crude the way I did it. But let me pull this palette out so I can show you what it looked like before so we can compare. Come on. My poor laptop cannot handle this. So I turn these off by clicking and dragging on them. And turn them back on. That's almost there. I'd still need to work in here and darken this area, but I think that would help.
So, Eric, one of the questions that came in then, so maybe to summarize, when you try to finish your TIFF, are you actually merging the layers together then at the end?
No, I don't want you to do that. That's a good question. Don't. All right, so, oh, look at, I rushed on this and I didn't make a working copy. So let's do that now. So couple baby R001, right? And we have, let me just do this image compression with layers here. I should have done it as a Photoshop format for you. Okay, so now you're like, okay, I'm happy with this. I want to flatten these layers. It's just too much. It's driving me nuts. Fine. Go ahead and flatten them yourself. All right, so you want to flatten your layers or flatten image. So layer, flatten image. But save it as a different name. So now it should be R2. In that way, you can go back to the other one just in case. Okay? And if you have any other questions, please feel free.
There's a lot of really good comments coming in, Eric. They want to thank you for what you were doing. You know, obviously we could probably sit here until midnight tonight.
Yes.
and deal with this. But if you have questions, please email Eric directly. Explain your question to him, and I'm sure he would be glad to share some information to help you with your issue. There is one other comment that did come through, Eric. The couple baby picture that you had,
Yeah.
there's another lady that has a picture almost identical with the same dress on it, and she's wondering if this lady is from France and if you know who it is. I have a feeling you might have a picture of somebody that a person knows.
Yeah, yeah, definitely contact Anne. This came from Anne.
Oh, Anne Kasabowski.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it says Gustav Brode in Neubrandenburg. I don't think that's France, though.
Okay. So I guess the question is, Anne, if you want to email, if you're still on yet, email the office. We'll hook you up with the person who had that question, and then you two guys can get together. So we'll deal with that.
Yeah.
Eric, I want to thank you for your webinar tonight. I've learned a lot.
Great.
Even trying to field questions and everything else, it was really enjoyable.
Great.
And I think we will need to get you back to talk about something else. So
Yeah.
those of you that were listening to the webinar tonight, you heard Eric talk about some of the different things for different workshops or webinars that we could have. Email the office with your suggestions, and we'll see what we can do.
And I was gonna say, if anyone likes the Facebook thing or Twitter, I have if you want to send questions on Facebook, my Facebook page, that's fine too. Whatever you're comfortable doing is fine.
Also, make sure that you check out his website, because he has tutorials and different things on his website, and you can also go to YouTube. He has things there as well.
Definitely.
So make sure you check some of those things out. Maybe he will have some of those questions that you have answered in some of those tutorials and things. So,
and my contact is right here on the website, contact feedback. So just click that, and you can send a form, email, whatever you want.
And your website address is on your handout, correct?
Yes, it is. Yes, second line from the top.
Yep. Okay, so you know how to get a hold of Eric. You know how to get a hold of us. Eric, thank you so much. And with that, I wish everybody good luck and good research and good photo restoration. Thank you.
Had lots of fun. Thanks. Good night.
What makes a good scan?
What is a selection?
What are layers?
What is resolution?
What is a JPEG?
What is TIFF?
What is RGB?
How do I crop a picture?
What is a zoom tool?
What is a clone stamp?
What are levels?
My name is Eric Basir, and I have produced this unique photo restoration and retouching foundations video course to answer all these questions and more. In my classes and workshops, I have taught hundreds how to preserve and restore their personal photographic collections with Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Photoshop Elements. Now you can have me as your personal instructor in this 10-lesson course. After studying the videos and easy-to-read workbook, you'll finish with a firm foundation of how to use Adobe Photoshop or any other photo editing program confidently and correctly.